The master stroke from the ownership for this project was bringing the whole team in early together. A lot of projects you get civil and landscape, and then architectural come later, and then you get your branding, but everybody was at the table very, very early, which I think is it's just so big.
And the opportunity to really purposefully kind of come up with like what are the stated goals and pin those to the wall so that every kind of decision after the fact would support that mission or that goal that's created specifically for this project. But the whole idea of threshold and flow, which is what sort of permeates the valley with the bridges, the threshold bridges as they're called, and that whole concept about thinking about how do you get people to experience in a natural way this whole valley and the whole Kohler homestead area. I mean, those early ideas came out, I think, in that charrette, and then forever were the sort of thing like always going back to with every design of every pavilion and piece was like, okay, how does this support that initial mission? I recall one of the early sketches that we did was kind of an understanding of what we call the Ozark cross section. So really from the peaks to the valleys and even through the homestead where the original barns sit. There was like this idea that we could take this like real natural beauty of this place and turn that into something that is meaningful, a little bit raw, a little bit edgy, just like the Ozarks are. But that thread, I mean, I think everybody immediately bought into that idea because it made sense to amplify the natural beauty, to kind of draw inspiration from the vernacular, really from the barns. I mean, every detail really can come off those original barns that sit at the homestead.
I think for architects, the only structures that were on the site were the two barns. And we started walking that first site walk, which I don't think we realized that we were going to be walking the site that day.
Yeah,
so I was dressed for like a boardroom in slacks and dress shoes. And they were like, all right, we're going to walk the site. So we did a hike across creeks. But you know, we started up here on the north and worked our way down, and most of this it's great. You're next to the creek, you're in the woods, it's a great day out of the office. But when we hit that homestead area, it just naturally opened up. You had the creek, you had the barns, and so that I think was really I mean, for architects, we're looking for that structure and we're going to pull in inspiration from that, but that combined with the valley really set a lot in motion. And then even for us, it was the first time interfacing with mountain bike trail builders and learning how do these guys create, what kinds of things are they creating, and they're creating compound curves in the woods. So we were trying to figure out what's the geometries that we use to create a compound curve, and a lot of times that's the base element is a triangle. And if you look at the barns, there's triangles in the roof structure and the barn loft, the hay loft. So that became pretty influential, and I think if you look at the signage, the benches, the buildings, there's triangles everywhere. There's big triangle cutouts in the middle of the bridge, amongst to the angst of our structural engineer.
And when we arrived at the homestead, we really thought, okay, we need to build something new here, but we want to be very respectful of the pastoral quality that's here and really frame a view back to this so that people can engage into the barns once we repair them and make them safe. But at the same time, that's where the idea of the berm building came from. We really wanted to push it away from the homestead, bury it into the hillside literally, and kind of create a constructed ruin in some ways that once you find it and kind of pop through the crack in the side, kind of sort of a constructed bluff, right? That then you're given this like perfectly framed view back to the homestead, to the ideal scenario that we originally kind of wandered across when we first visited the place. So the design of the berm building entirely, where Airship sits, was about respectfully sort of receding out of the limelight, but also framing views back to the homestead itself. And then the concrete of the structure, that detail, you can find it in the base of the original barn, that raw concrete that, you know, patina and time have affected and sort of whittled it down. That we saw that, and we have some, you know, immediately took some great photos of the way the moss and the lichen were growing on that concrete and had been for decades and decades on that barn. And ultimately that became like, that's our material choice. So let's make the berm out of this material so that it's respectful, it's of the place, but it's not not the showstopper, really the homestead itself. That special place was the thing we wanted to honor.
And when you bring a lot of people into nature, there's a tension where you start to degrade this beautiful thing that you found when you introduce a lot of people, because people are needy. They need restrooms and a place to get a drink. So that was also why the burn building came about, was because we needed restrooms, and we didn't want to put that in the barn, because the moment you put restrooms in a barn would completely destroy that experience. If you remove the homestead out, Kohler would lose a lot. If you remove the North Gateway flyover, it would lose something, but maybe you would still have a gravity about the place. But the homestead's pretty special. That little opening, the way that the creek comes close to the barns right there, you've got the threshold bridge, and there's just a lot of really cool stuff going on right there.
All the hubbub's happening just over there. All the downtown, all the work, all the craziness of life. But the idea that you could just come a couple miles away and find a little bit of serenity and be back in the raw Ozarks that quickly. I mean, I think that's what I think we see people doing. We see that disconnect happen and that sort of peace that comes with the place, and hopefully that's being felt.
I think Kohler is a microcosm for why we all like Northwest Arkansas, because you can be in the city right there, but just like that, you can be out here in nature. And this is accentuating, like we're close to the buffalo, but this is like really close. It's in town almost. So I think it's a little piece of Northwest Arkansas that speaks to the larger region. And the parks, these nature places, are where communities come to play together, to heal, to kind of refresh. So I hope that, and I think it is doing that for people that come here. That's a pretty special valley. You feel like you're in a different world when you're down here. I think it's something similar here for a park. And then hopefully people are just enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's really fun to do a project where you get to see the public enjoy it. If you do an office building or even a multifamily building to an extent, there's a certain group of people that get to use that building. But you do a park building, everybody gets to enjoy it, and that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I would echo that and say, like, projects like this are opportunities to build community.
Yeah,
like literally open to everyone every day, and that's very different than other typologies that we work in a lot. So it's pretty special to be able to engage in that.